Hold on to your tinfoil hats, fellow rebels of the digital realm. Episode 7 of Season 2 of the Outlaw Crypto Podcast is about to shatter the walls of the surveillance state with our latest guest, the legendary Supertestnet. This isn't just any developer. No. Supertestnet is a cybernetic gorilla, a one-person wrecking ball, tearing down the dystopian fortresses of Big Brother's digital prison brick by bloody brick. He's a Bitcoin and Nostr developer, a fearless privacy tech warrior standing tall against the technocratic nightmare that's trying to trap humanity in its blockchain of chains. Supertestnet is the last line of defense against the AI-powered overseers that want to track your every Satoshi and boil the oceans of liberty with their twisted algorithms. He's building the ultimate toolkit for the freedom fighters of the digital world with projects like Hedgehog, MSP, and UTXO dealership. Each one a nuclear bomb in the war against digital tyranny. You think Lightning Network was hot? Well, Supertestnet is taking it to a whole new level with privacy-enhancing payment channels, censorship-resistant chat protocols, and decentralized markets that will make the snooping eyes of the global surveillance state bleed in confusion. This man, this cyberpunk visionary, has turned the Nostr protocol into a weapon of liberation, a code-fueled bazooka aimed straight at the heart of the digital overlords. He's building state chains, privacy-centric tools, and even Bitcoin chess games to show the world that freedom can't be tamed. Supertestnet is here to teach you how to fight back, how to slip through the cracks of the digital panopticon, and how to laugh in the face of the Orwellian nightmare they've been building around us. In this episode, we'll dive deep into Supertestnet's weaponized code, exploring how Hedgehog will blast open the world of peer-to-peer payments, how Whisper addresses are making the chain snoopers cry, and how his projects are giving the middle finger to centralized control. Whether it's anonymized Bitcoin transactions, decentralized communication, or teaching plebs to build their own apps, Supertestnet is lighting the way to a new era of digital freedom. Don't miss this episode, because once you hear Supertestnet's battle plan, you'll never look at Bitcoin or the technocratic hellscape the same way again. The revolution is here, and Supertestnet is leading the charge into the heart of the beast.
All right, we're back with another episode of the Outlaw Crypto Podcast. I'm your host, Paranoia Machinery. This is a podcasting 2.0 podcast, which means that you can stream sats, you can boost sats via the Fountain app, and we also accept donations via XMR chat and a variety of privacy coins, including Monero and Wownero. Today, my guest is Supertestnet, who's an independent developer for Bitcoin and related technologies. Supertestnet, I'm happy to have you on the show, man. How are you?
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm glad to talk about what we've been talking about on Twitter and other stuff, and see where it goes.
Indeed. Before we get into all the spicy takes and our differing opinions on the matter, I wanted to let people know about your decentralized CoinJoin implementation that you were working on, and then whatever Nostr projects that you've been working on lately. If you want to let the audience know about that, that'd be super cool.
Sure, you can all head to my website, supertestnet.org, and see a list of all my projects there. If you'll probably have to do a Control F search and find MSB. That's a whole word, EMESSBEE. That is some work I did on. It's more of a proof of concept. It demonstrates that it's possible to do the coordination part of a CoinJoin without a coordinator, but instead by just having all the participants follow a common protocol. To be clear, it's not complete CoinJoin software. You need a lot more other stuff for it, but it does demonstrate that you can do that part without a coordinator.
And then how are you accomplishing that? Are you using Nostr like Joinster is trying to do?
I do use Nostr in my proof of concept, although it's not necessary to use Nostr for it. It just needs some way to. It needs a bulletin board system. It needs somewhere where people can post messages and then read messages that other people have produced. And so I use Nostr because I've got a lot of Nostr tools created for working with that particular system, and it makes it, and that's a really nice way to do it. But you could use any bulletin board system. You could use IRC, or you could download forum software and do it that way. Or you could use an existing forum or an existing IRC channel. Some of them are designed for doing privacy-related things. But yeah, you just need somewhere where you can post messages and where other people can subscribe to listen to incoming messages, and then when one comes in that matches a certain template, then they like add it to a list, and then you do some other processing with it after that.
Okay, cool. And then I guess how similar is your proof of concept to what Floppy is trying to accomplish with Joinster? I mean.
Well, they're different approaches. As far as I'm aware, Joinster does have a coordinator, but like Join Market, the one of the participants in the coin join is like randomly selected, or well, not randomly selected. I think there's like one person who pays to do a coin join, and that person's the coordinator, and then there's other people who contribute to it. Actually, it's been a long time since I've reviewed Joinster, and I can't quite remember. I shouldn't say anything because I don't actually remember how Joinster works. Okay. Yeah, so sorry, forget I said anything because it might all be wrong.
Yeah, fair enough. I am not super technical either, so I couldn't really explain it to you. But I did an interview with Floppy, and he explained it pretty well. But I did it like over a month ago, so I don't remember. Like
an important difference between his and mine. He's actually working on his. I'm not. I did mine for a hackathon, so I made it in like 3 days, and just wanted to prove that you can do it's possible to do a coordinator-less coin join. But I'm not working on it. I consider it a finished project, finished in the sense that I did what I want to with it. I'm not trying to turn it into a full-fledged coin join protocol. I just put it out there in the hopes that someone else might pick it up and use it. But so I do recommend if you're going to use one that is actually like production ready. So Join Market is good, and I don't know if Joinster is production ready. I certainly think he would appreciate testers. So maybe join his channel and help him test it, help him work out any bugs. It looks like it's really close to production ready.
Yeah, he's working on it. I don't know if it's like ready for war yet, but I know he's definitely plugging away at it on a daily basis.
Yeah. So support him, not me, because I'm not doing that.
All right. So like, I guess your efforts in Bitcoin privacy are focused more on Lightning Network rather than on chain.
It really depends. I work on a whole lot of stuff, and not all of it's related to privacy. The most recent thing that I did with privacy is probably, I recently created a wallet for eCash, and eCash has privacy properties. And before that, like last month, I created a project called StateChain.js. StateChains have privacy properties. Neither one is really a Lightning Network thing, though. They're separate. They're separate things. I don't know if I've ever done anything to enhance privacy on the Lightning Network. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I've done for that. I have some ideas, but I haven't implemented them yet.
I interviewed Nicholas Gregory. He's the developer that's behind the state chain swaps for Mercury Layer.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that that's like a separate thing, but he's working to integrate it with Lightning. And then I also know that eCash is like a separate thing, but the eCash efforts that I've seen, Cashew, and then also Fedimint are like integrated into Lightning as well. Why do you think Lightning is the best privacy tool for the job then, if you're not even working on Lightning privacy?
Well, to be clear, I want to work on Lightning privacy. It's just I work on whatever strikes me as a really interesting problem at the moment. And I've got something that I think is a more interesting problem for me to solve. So I'm working on that instead. But eventually I hope to get around to doing some privacy stuff on Lightning. Why do I think it's the best tool for privacy? I think it's the best tool for privacy because of all the work that's gone into making it have really, really useful privacy properties and tools for enhancing your privacy. I really like the work they've done with encrypting everything. I really like the work they've done with the Onion protocol. I really like the work they've done with unannounced channels. And I think that these things deserve to be, and Bolt 12 as well. And I think these things deserve to be highlighted and spread and people made aware that if you want really good privacy, the Lightning developers have got you covered. Give it a try.
Why do you think like people that need privacy in life or death situations have totally disregarded Lightning?
I don't think they have.
I mean, they have. Like, nobody uses Lightning on the dark web.
Have you heard of Robosats?
That's not a dark web market. Like, that's a peer-to-peer exchange. Like, no dark web user will concede that that's a dark web market. Like, you're the only person putting forth that definition.
I'm not sure about that. So let's go with the definition given on Wikipedia. A darknet market is. Let me just go look it up real quick. Darknet market.
Wikipedia can say what it wants, but like, no darknet user considers Robosats a darknet market.
I mean, I'm a Darknet user, and I consider it a Darknet market.
I don't think you are, though. I think you're a peer-to-peer exchange user if you use Robosats.
Okay, so let's talk about what an exchange is. Do you think an exchange is a market?
No, I think an exchange is to trade cryptos, like, or, you know, like if you're trading stocks or some shit. Like, an exchange is to trade like commodities or assets.
Do you think a stock market is a market?
Yeah, in the sense that it's a stock market. I wouldn't go to a stock market to like buy like goods and services.
Do you think a stock market is an exchange?
Yeah, I would say it's more an exchange.
So you can be a market and an exchange.
You can, but like in the definition of darknet market that darknet users have, they're going there to seek out illegal goods and services.
I don't know about that. I certainly go to darknet markets, and I don't know. You know, the most popular product sold on Silk Road 2 was gift cards.
Yeah, but I mean, like, no darknet market user is buying gift cards right now. Like, they go to BitRefill for that.
Then why are there a lot of gift cards resellers on darknet markets?
Because they're doing fraud and they're trying to cash out.
Maybe it's that, or maybe it's just there's a market here, people who are looking for using their Bitcoin or their Monero or whatever, and they're like, rather than make these people go to BitRefill, I can get some of that revenue for myself by selling gift cards on this website.
I think it's more like, oh, I hacked this person's credit card and I bought a bunch of gift cards because it's easier to buy gift cards and sell them on the dark web than it is to cash out dollars to a bank account without getting caught.
Sure, some people are doing that, but I certainly see a lot of people who are selling gift cards at that don't look like there's no evidence that they've been stolen. I've certainly sold stuff on darknet markets that aren't illegal. I don't think there's anything inherent in the definition of a darknet market that requires things to be illegal. Weren't alpaca socks sold on the original on Silk Road?
Alpaca socks, maybe.
Yeah, there's always been people selling licit and illicit goods on these darknet markets because there are merchants out there who are like, well, if this is where people are buying and selling stuff, I can sell my stuff there too. And not everyone is selling something illegal.
I would say that that's changed, though. Like, the overwhelming amount of markets that are on the darknet are selling specifically illegal goods and services.
Okay, so it sounds
maybe in 2011 when Silk Road first launched, like, people were selling socks and stuff on there, but I would say, like, right now, like, if you go to any dark web market that's listed on Dread, they're not selling legal goods and services. They're selling illegal goods and services.
Every time I browse one, I see people selling cash. It's not illegal to sell cash.
Depends on what kind of cash. I mean, a lot of those notes are counterfeit, right? Like,
maybe a lot are. I certainly don't think all of them are. There's also people listing that they'll do currency swaps. Some people are like, if you'll send me some Bitcoin, I'll send you some Monero. That's certainly not illegal.
Yeah, but people go to peer-to-peer exchanges for that. They're not doing that on dark web markets. Like,
then why do these listings exist?
Like, show me one. Like, I don't think there are listings like that.
Okay, let me go pull up a darknet market. Give me a minute. It'll take me like 5 minutes to pull one up because Tor is slow. Okay, so what is the most common darknet market? Top 5 darknet markets according to Monitor. First one on their list is Genesis Market. Okay, is that a good one? If I go on to, okay. So what is the Tor address for Genesis Market? FBI takedown is the first result. So maybe they don't exist anymore? All right, let me try a different one. Something called Too Easy. I've never heard of that one. Have you ever heard of Too Easy?
No, I haven't.
Let's try a different one. Well, I don't like this Monitor website. They only have 5, and the other ones are OMG, something called Russian Market, and something called Too Easy. And I don't know what those are, so I'm going to look a different one. Abacus Market. There's one. All right, so what is the Tor address for Abacus Market? It didn't come up where I thought it would. Maybe I'll go to Dread and search there.
Yeah, Dread's like probably the most current like resource for active markets and storefronts and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that takes for the load. I was hoping someone would, like, on Reddit have the link or whatever, but I'm not seeing anything useful. Okay, so while this is loading, let's talk about...
Yeah, that's neither here nor there. I mean, honestly, I really don't care about that. Like, what I wanted to say, though, is, like, nobody's using Lightning specifically for this use case. Like, there's I don't even know if there's a market that even accepts Bitcoin anymore, because the dark web Bible is telling people not to use transparent currencies unless you absolutely have to. The darknet in general has like moved away completely from Bitcoin. It's been flippened. Like everyone was waiting for Ethereum to flip in Bitcoin, but XMR has done so on the free market. And like no one will use Lightning. Like if you go on Dread and ask people about Lightning, they're going to tell you that anything that has to do with Bitcoin is cancer and that it will get you arrested. So it's curious to me that you think that Lightning has better privacy than privacy coins that people are actually using to commit crimes and get away with stuff.
Do you think the Robosats people are getting away with committing crimes?
No, because I think it's a peer-to-peer exchange, and peer-to-peer exchanges aren't illegal. Like,
Do you know the founder of Paxful got arrested for running a peer-to-peer exchange? They said he wasn't doing KYC on his users. He should have been. They cited him for facilitating money laundering because he wasn't doing background checks on his users. He went to, I think he was charged with like 5 years in prison for running Paxful.
yeah, I
And
saw the
a lot of
article
these-
that you linked. I forget what thread it was, but you linked an article about it in one of the threads we were
Yeah.
debating. And
So a lot of
did
these
read the
peer-to-peer,
article.
I think that's the reason why peer-to-peer exchanges have gone to the dark web. You know, Bisq is operated exclusively over Tor. Haveno is operated exclusively over Tor. Robosats is operated exclusively over Tor. And these guys are using the Lightning Network to protect themselves from getting in jail.
Haveno's not using the Lightning Network.
Okay, I didn't know that. I've never used Haveno.
Yeah,
but
Haveno
yeah.
uses Monero, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I think Litecoin.
So since these, you know, people who, according to unjust laws, are criminals, the government thinks these people are criminals, and they're charging them with things like money laundering and not following AML background checks and running unlicensed money transmitters.
There
Since
are tons of peer-to-peer markets though that are on the ClearNet that KYC and aren't on the dark web, right? Like,
I don't know. I've never used them. I use the ones that respect my privacy
well,
and don't do
there's
KYC on me.
HODL. There's HODL. Binance has their P2P. There's Eldorado Market, which has its P2P. There's Bitfinex even has one. There's others too that I can't think of off the top of my head. But there's a lot of peer-to-peer exchanges that are not using Tor or obscuring any of the information about their users. Yes.
Are they doing KYC on their users?
I don't know about all of them, but I know most of them are doing KYC. Yeah, because
So all there aren't.
after local Bitcoins shut down,
Yeah.
like pretty much all the other peer-to-peer markets decided to KYC because they wanted to be compliant so that they continue operating.
They don't want to go to jail. Yeah, but if the Robosats people are getting away with this, and the reason they're able to do so is because they're saying, you know, we're relying on Lightning for our privacy. I think that's a pretty good indicator that Lightning's privacy will keep you out of jail.
I don't think Lightning's privacy will keep you out of jail, and I think it's completely irresponsible to put forth that message. Like, people are going to go to jail if they try to use Lightning for use cases where they really, really need privacy in a life or death situation. Like, the conditions that you put forth yourself for somebody to use Lightning privately are ridiculous. Like, nobody's ever going to do that. Like, you have to run your own node and like make sure that like you only open channels with like certain nodes that aren't going to like report you and, you know, aren't monitoring your traffic and this kind of thing. And like the amount of hoops that someone would have to jump through is just infeasible. Like, realistically, they're just going to use Monero or a different privacy coin.
Do you think you can use Monero without jumping through hoops and have good privacy?
Yeah, because it's private by default and you just send and it's fine.
So I have a quotation from the Monero frequently asked questions that I'd like to get your take on.
Sure.
So the question is Monero magic and protects my privacy no matter what I do? And the answer is, Monero is not magic. If you use Monero but give your name and address to another party, the other party will not magically forget your name and address. If you give out your secret keys, others will know what you've done. If you get compromised, others will be able to keylog you. If you use a weak password, others will be able to brute force your keys file. If you back up your seed in the cloud, you'll be poorer soon. There is no such thing as 100% anonymous. If nothing else, your anonymity set is the set of people using Monero. Some people don't use Monero. Monero may also have bugs. Even if not, ways may exist to infer some information through Monero's privacy layers, either now or later. Attacks only get better. If you wear a seatbelt, you can still die in a car crash. Use common sense, prudence, and defense in depth. What's your take
I would
on
say
this
all of that applies to Bitcoin as well, except for Bitcoin doesn't even have any privacy.
Okay, so it sounds like you're saying you can't just use Monero. You have to be kind of careful and use defense in depth
No,
in order to.
you can use Monero, but I mean, if you dox yourself, you're doxing yourself, right? Like, I mean, that was the first disclaimer that they had in your statement.
That's the first, followed by several others, including use common sense, prudence, and defense in depth. I don't think just use Monero counts as acting with defense in depth.
I would say it is. Like, when you use Monero, like, it's private by default. Like, nobody can figure out any information about you for the most part, unless you dox yourself.
Tell me more about that most part.
Well, I mean, unless you dox yourself, like, unless you give somebody your personal information, how are they going to know anything about you?
I think it's really easy if you're not using defense in depth to give people information about you without knowing it. Like they could be logging your IP address. They could be. I think the Cake wallet. What's it called? Privacy policy says we send your IP address information to a third party, and we cannot guarantee that they're not logging it.
That's if you buy through the Cake wallet, like crypto exchange thing that they have built in there. They have like a swapper built in. So
Yeah,
if you're buying through that, then they have to like give your information to their partner that's supplying the crypto that you're buying, right? Like that's a special use case. Like if you're buying from within the wallet app, like you're doxing yourself, you're going to have to KYC. Like they're going to make you give up your personal info.
The peer-to-peer exchange built into Cake wallet does KYC on you.
Yeah, because you use like a debit card or like a credit card to make the purchase, right? So I mean, you're doxing yourself.
I didn't know that. I've never used theirs because I try to use ones that. Well, I didn't. I'm surprised to hear that. I thought that the Cake Wallet guys would be better than that and not do KYC on their users. I recommend using Robosats instead.
Cake Wallet isn't doing KYC on their users. It's their third-party partners for their built-in exchange that's in the wallet. Like you're choosing to do that though. Like you know what I mean? Like it's the same as like going to Coinbase and you're choosing to buy on Coinbase instead of on Bisq. Like you're choosing to dox yourself for convenience.
Yeah, I don't recommend doing that. I recommend using something better. Bisq is great. The Bisq doesn't do KYC on their users. Use Bisq. Robosats also doesn't.
I mean, there's no way you can purchase crypto with like a credit card or a debit card though without having to go through KYC. Like it's impossible to do without KYC. And even if you do, they still have your banking info through your credit card or your debit card, right? So you're doxing yourself either way. So if you choose to purchase crypto with a credit card or a debit card, you're doxing yourself. It's just a given.
I don't know about that.
Smart users would choose not to acquire their crypto that way, right?
I have some thoughts on possible ways to do that, but it doesn't seem to use a debit card without giving away your identity. But it seems slightly unrelated to the topic at hand. If you'd like, I could go over some of the thoughts I've had on it.
Yeah, go for it.
So it's possible to purchase a Visa gift card using cash, and you can even like wear a mask so people can't get your identity that way. And these Visa gift cards come with a bank card attached, or a bank account.
Yeah, you could buy those with Monero too, like just off like I don't know, like coin cards or.
Right, but if you're trying to buy Monero or buy Bitcoin with a debit card that doesn't have your identity attached, one way that I think you could approach it is to first use cash to buy one of these Visa gift card thingies, and then use that on one of these sites that lets you buy cryptocurrency with a debit card. And there might be a way to do that. I don't know what the rest of the hoops you have to jump through are, but at least that'd be a starting point.
Yeah, that could work, I guess. I really don't know because I don't use those prepaid gift cards. Like I don't know if they will try to make you dox yourself at some point in the flow of the order. But I would say the overwhelming majority of people that acquire privacy coins, whether it be Monero or another privacy coin, are doing so. Like they have like an exchange account that they're doxed on, right? Like they have a Coinbase account or whatever, and then they'll buy like Litecoin, for instance, and then use a swapping service like QuickX or StealthX. Like there's Wizard Swap. There's a bunch of them, right? That are on KYC, not me. And like you'll take your KYC crypto off the exchange and then swap it into a privacy coin, and the heuristics are broken there because after you're in a privacy coin, they can't track your movements, right?
I don't know. I think you sometimes can. I built a tool that sometimes traces people's Monero transactions.
I don't think it really traces it though. From what I understand about your tool, it's more of like a visualizer than a tracer. Like from the Monero people that reviewed your tool, they're saying like, oh, it's cool, like it helps you visualize the transactions, but you're not actually tracing the transaction.
Sometimes it does, though. With about 1 in 5 transactions, it'll identify the sender of the transaction and knock out all the decoys and say this is the guy who sent this money, and that's tracing.
Then how come you haven't gotten the $625,000 the IRS is putting forth?
I haven't even looked into it.
The IRS has a bounty for Monero. Like if you can trace Monero, like there's a lot.
I thought they already gave that bounty to the guys from BlockCypher, who because I made my thing after watching a video by BlockCypher on how their thing works. So I tried to make something similar.
Yeah, no, I think like BlockCypher is selling vaporware, and I think that your tool probably isn't as effective as you think it is.
I wouldn't know. I don't have a Monero wallet to test it with.
Yeah, if I give you like a I don't know, like a transaction or something of mine, can you try and trace it?
Sure.
All right, hold on. Let me unlock my wallet here.
Be aware, my wallet's pulling its data from blocksomething.io, some block explorer. So I'll be entering your transaction ID into a block explorer that's probably reporting it to people.
Okay. In the private chat here on the side, I'm putting in the transaction ID.
Okay. Got it. I'm pasting it into Examiner. No, it didn't trace yours.
Okay.
Didn't knock out any possible senders.
All right. Well, that's anecdotal, I guess, not scientific, but I was just curious, like if you could like trace this one or whatever. Like this is just a random transaction. It's actually a donation that somebody gave me for this podcast.
Yeah, it doesn't get all of them. I have 2 heuristics in here, neither of which are foolproof. One of them is based on recency bias. So Monero's typical algorithm for selecting decoys is biased towards selecting really recent ones, and there's like a 90% chance that it only selects decoys from before a certain time period. And so if there's a input from after that time period, then there's a 90% chance that it was not selected by the algorithm and was selected by the user. And so then you can say with 90% confidence that this is the real spend. So that's the first tool it uses, and that's what catches most of them. And then it has another one which is called input merge analysis, which is where if you use 2 inputs that both were created around the same time, that sticks out because it's unusual for 2 inputs in Monero to both be created within the same couple of blocks of one another. So I use these 2 techniques. They were ones that were talked about in the BlockCypher podcast and on what's it called, Breaking Monero podcast. So I implemented those 2, and there's like 6 others that I have listed on my GitHub that I haven't implemented. Because I was satisfied. I was like, yeah, it's the information that Monero gives you is enough to trace people sometimes. Mine doesn't work all the time, and I don't know how effective it is because I haven't tested how often it gets it right. It should be about 90% right 90% of the time, and then the other 10% it should be wrong. Or it should be right 90% of the time, and the other 10% it should be wrong. But I don't know. I haven't tested it to see how accurate that is with real world data.
And if someone is employing like techniques like churning their Monero by sending it back and forth to wallets they control to give it more anonymity, and then also using coin control and selecting specific TXOs, like how does that impact your tracing tool?
I don't know. On the Breaking Monero podcast, they said that churning coins is a bad idea for privacy because it has other negative side effects on things. I don't know what those. I can't remember what those are. If you selected outputs yourself, you could definitely break it. You could just make sure that you always select several from before, the recency bias cutoff, and that would break it because if there's 2 from before the cutoff, then it just says I don't know which one of these it is and doesn't trace it. So you could definitely break it that way. But I also think if you start selecting your own UTXOs without using the algorithm, you're leaving yourself open to the fact that humans are really bad at randomness. So you might break my tool, but there might be other tracing tools that would be able to detect that you're manually selecting UTXOs and then figure it out that way.
Okay, fair enough. And why do you think that like Darknet markets that used Bitcoin have been repeatedly taken down, and then Darknet markets that use Monero do not get taken down?
I don't know I don't know if that's true. Can you give some examples?
Well, I mean, Hydra was like the biggest dark web market like last year, and it was taken down because they were using Bitcoin, and their mixer was like de-anonymized or Bitcoin was traced or whatever, and like they ended up getting arrested for it. And then like as a counter to that, White House Market, which was like the first like Monero only market that was like huge, they ended up making so much money that they just retired.
That's interesting to hear. Yeah, I don't know. This is all news to me. I didn't know that Hydra Market was taken down due to whatever de-anonymizing their big mixings and stuff, and I didn't know that White House whatever retired based on how successful they were. That's funny. Good to hear. Or I don't know if it's good to hear. There's elements of darkness there as well, but some of it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not like a criminal advocate. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think crime is good, but I find it extremely interesting to see how people are using these privacy technologies in like real world situations, right? So like, I pay attention a lot to what's happening on the dark web, and it seems to me that like because of all the high profile busts with Bitcoin and darknet markets, and then White House market success, that the dark web has overwhelmingly migrated towards Monero. And then like I don't even know, there used to be one, like 3 months ago there was like one market that still accepted Bitcoin, and now I don't even know if there is any at all.
Okay, well, I hope that they're learning from the experiences of Robosats and Bisq, who are seeing pretty good success with that stuff, and maybe these guys are like, hey, maybe we should do that too, so that we don't bleed our customer base to these peer-to-peer exchanges that are using Lightning and are offering a better user experience.
I wouldn't say it's a better user experience though. Like I feel like an on-chain wallet is a much better user experience than trying to use Lightning non-custodially or custodially.
Okay, well, I certainly have had a better experience using Robosats than other darknet markets. So in my anecdotal experience, they have a better UX, but I guess your anecdotal experience is different from mine, and that's great.
Would you say that using Bitcoin on-chain is a much better experience than trying to use Lightning?
Sometimes. I like the reliability of on-chain better. I like that when I make an on-chain payment, it always goes through. And that's not true with Lightning. About 20% of the time for me, my payment fails or gets stuck, and then it's really annoying when it gets stuck because it takes longer than a base layer payment would sometimes to finally go through. Yeah, the other day, I'll tell you, this is the first time this has happened. I made a Lightning transaction to buy, I think it was an Airbnb gift card, and it took 70 tries. It took 70 tries for my Lightning wallet to finally get the payment to go through. And so that payment was each try took about 2 seconds. So if I do the math on that, that's like 240 seconds, which divided by 60, I was waiting, well, I guess I was only waiting 4 minutes for a Lightning payment to go through, which is still not as long as the base layer. But that was annoying, to sit there and be like, this sucks. I'm just sitting here not knowing if it'll even succeed, because maybe after these 4 minutes, it'll just be like failed, and then you have to try it with a different wallet.
Yeah, I mean, like routing issues aside, like I know routing's like a huge problem in Lightning, but like routing issues aside, like the experience that a user has of like trying to run their own node non-custodially is difficult. Like there's a huge learning curve there. Like I've run a node for like a long time. Like I don't run a node anymore because my LND node kept closing channels on me and shit, and I stopped. Like I just got sick of dealing with it. So now if I use Lightning, I'll use it custodially, but like I really tend to like not want to use anything custodial in the first place. So now I would just rather use like a different coin on the base layer that's quick, fast, cheap. Monero fits that bill right now, but I mean, I do use other coins as well. Like I use Litecoin, I use Tether here and there. It just depends like what I'm trying to do, I guess. But like for like, in your opinion, do you think like the average user is ever going to try to run their own node unless it's completely abstracted away, like to where they don't have to think about it?
I don't think that, but I strive to make it to truth. I'm really inspired by the fact that in the early 2000s, in order to get on the internet, you had to buy a modem, and then in the mid 2000s, you also had to buy a router in order to get online, or in order to like have it be a decent experience. And people did. Like they went out. It was such a good experience to have the internet that people went out and bought a modem, and they bought a router, and they hooked them up, and they hired somebody who could do it, or they figured out how to do it themselves. And then they did that because having the internet was so important to them. And now everybody does it. I think if you had told people back in like when the internet was being invented in the 70s and in the 80s that I think most people would be like, yeah, the world is never going to do this. It's too complicated to get a modem and try and figure out all this stuff and figure out networking. But they made it so the experience was so attractive, and even though it didn't get perfectly easy to do, it got easy enough to where people could figure it out. I hope that we can make the same thing happen with Bitcoin nodes and Lightning nodes, and that we can make it to a point where people want to do this so badly that even if it's not completely easy to do, they're willing to do this, the remaining hard parts in order to have that experience, in order to have the money that is good.
Yeah, I could see where you're going with that, but like realistically, right now, like Bitcoin was a trust minimized system, right? Like it was peer-to-peer cash, and introducing Lightning and all this complexity made it so now there's like the rise of LSPs, which are Lightning service providers, right? Like Phoenix Wallet has like their node that automates everything for you or whatever. I think Synonym's trying to do something similar. There's several others, Breeze being one of them. And like, to me, that just totally defeats the purpose of Bitcoin because you're reintroducing trusted third parties like into a trustless system.
In what way are LSPs trusted?
Like you're trusting them to manage your liquidity and stuff, and they can tell like what all your spend, like they have all the data of like where you're spending money, what you're doing with your money. Like they can theoretically censor you. Like if Wallet is Satoshi, like if the hammer came down on Wallet is Satoshi, all the people that are using it for zaps right now on Nostr, like they could shotgun KYC them, they could like freeze their accounts, like all this kind of stuff that like shouldn't exist in Bitcoin, in my opinion. Like you're reintroducing this like trusted third party dynamic, and it's basically like PayPal 2.0.
Yeah, with Roll to Satoshi, I agree. I'm surprised it hasn't already. I don't know what they're doing to escape having the hammer coming down on them all the way over there in Australia, which is like one of the really tyrannical countries on this. I think it's like a Five Eyes country, and yet somehow, well, I guess they're in New Zealand, not Australia. Maybe that has something to do with it. But somehow they haven't.
I think New Zealand's still Five Eyes though.
Okay, yeah. Well, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. Maybe they're just secretly giving everyone's information to the governments, and that's why they're not coming down on them. Yeah, so freaky stuff is happening there, and I don't know why they're still around. But yeah, I think that there are plenty of LSPs that aren't that don't hold user funds and can't do anything more bad to you than say, I'm not going to serve you anymore. Like that's all they can. That's the worst thing that can happen with some LSPs.
Yeah, but I mean, like forcing users to rely on LSPs, like to provide the kind of experience you were describing, to where like it's such a good experience that people are going to use it, right? Like that's coming through LSPs right now, and LSPs like have the power to be like, oh, we're not going to serve you, or oh, we're going to freeze your account, or oh, we're going to send all your data to these tax authorities or to these law enforcement people that want to know about you. So like, to me, like this kind of defeats the purpose of Bitcoin. Like this isn't a good path to go down.
To me, it's a little bit like saying, what would happen if you're running your Monero node and you're reaching out to peers, and one of your peers disconnects from you. If that happens, I don't even think you would notice on Monero. I think your node would just pick someone else to connect to. And I hope to get to an experience like that with routing nodes on the Lightning Network. If one of them just says, I don't want to serve you anymore, or whatever, like you're not giving me the data I want, and I have to follow travel rules or whatever. I hope that it just severs the connection, and the user doesn't even notice because their wallet just picks someone else, and then they don't have to worry about it.
With these LSPs, though, like they're going to be like money transmitting businesses. They're eventually going to have to implement all this like virtual asset service provider stuff from the FATF guidelines that we're seeing get implemented right now in Europe through MiCA, and in the United States, like they're still fighting over the specifics, but they're going to KYC everything. It's going to be total financial surveillance. That's what they're going to roll out to every jurisdiction. That's like what the FATF guidelines are. They're like the Financial Action Task Force or whatever. Like they're in charge of like stopping money laundering and terrorist finance and all that stuff. So like they're not going to let crypto exist in the way that like we understand crypto to be, like decentralized, permissionless, possibly anonymous. Like,
I don't think they can stop it.
Allow that to happen.
They could certainly bring down the hammer on some routing node and say you have to do KYC on all of your users, and then that routing node tries to and just wallets aren't designed to respond to KYC requests, so they just sever the connection. Like that should be how it happens, and then your wallet just picks a new one and uses them. I don't think they can take down all of the routing nodes any more than they can take down all of the Monero nodes.
But like, there's not as many routing nodes. Like, the main nodes on the network are like Bitrefill, Bitfinex. I don't know. There's other ones that are very big, but like, it's a hub and spoke model where like a few businesses have high liquidity nodes and everybody connects to them. So like, they're hubs that are going to enforce this stuff. Like, it's not a lot of people that they have to lean on to get this kind of network-wide surveillance.
But the thing is that I don't think they can enforce it. The most they can do is disconnect from you. Like they can't hold your money and say we're not going to give you money or something. Like they don't have your money on the Lightning Network unless you're using Wallet Satoshi or another custodial wallet.
So the worst thing that 90% of people are, or more, like 90% of people or more are using custodial wallets right now.
Where are you getting this information?
There's a Zaps stats for Nostr, and overwhelmingly, like it's like 90 something, or like it might even be like 98% of people are using custodial wallets for Lightning.
I don't know if that's true. So if I can see why people use custodial wallets for Zaps. I use a custodial wallet for Zaps, but I also run my own node. And I think there's like a different use case there. It's possible to say, yeah, I want to have a custodial wallet for my Zaps because on a per day basis, they're about to less than $5. So it's not like I'm putting any significant amount of money at stake by having it on a custodian. And it's easier, like the payments come in more reliably if it's in a custodian than if it's in your own node. So like that's why I do it. I do it because the payments are more reliable and it's not much money. But so I am on the list of people, according to those things, who aren't running their own node, quote unquote, except I am. I am running my own node, and I withdraw my sats from the custodial wallet to my own node every time it gets to be more than 20,000 sats, which is like $8. So that's how I do it, and I don't know if other people are doing that, but I don't trust these statistics that say, oh, no one's using self-custodial wallets because it's possible to use both, and there are reasons to use both.
The overwhelming majority of people don't. Like, you're a developer, so like you have a little bit more technical chops than the average user, but like your average Bitcoiner 80 IQ pleb is not running their own node. Like, they just don't do it. They just use Wallet as Satoshi. They use
where are you getting this information? Because if you're just getting it from Zap,
I'm trying to find
that doesn't seem like a very reliable source of information to me.
Why isn't it? Like, these are the Lightning, or I mean Nostr clients themselves that have the data, like on who's zapping who and all that.
Yeah, but they don't have data on who's running their own node. They just know they have data on
because they know which wallet people are using, and like it's like 90% of people, if not more, like possibly 98%. I can't remember the exact number.
They know what wallet people are using for Zaps, but that doesn't mean that they're using that wallet for everything.
I would say they are though, because like
where's your data coming from?
Look at the Lightning nodes on Wownero. Like the nodes are going down, channels are closing, liquidity is like less than 1% of Bitcoin on the Lightning network in general. Like, the Lightning network by all metrics is failing.
Sorry, can you name those metrics again?
Yeah, if you go on like Wownero, Wownero, the Lightning. Yeah, if you go on there, like you can see that like the channels are closing, nodes are shutting down. Like the metrics for the Lightning network are on a steady decline.
I'm looking for a chart. I'm on Wownero. I don't see a chart of this information. Is there?
Look, number of channels down 0.3%. Number of nodes down 0.31%. That's just today. But I mean, like, if you look at this on like,
I'm seeing new nodes 24 hours are up 17. I'm seeing new channels are up by 157. I'm not sure we're looking at the same data.
I'm on the like main oneml.com page. It says
I'm on
nodes,
oneml.com/statistics.
Down 0.31%. Number of channels 49,244, down 0.3%.
I'll put the link to what I'm looking at.
The network capacity is up since last time. Like, it was at like 4,000 Bitcoin something, 4,000 something last time I looked. Now it's at 5,081. And
number of new nodes is up. Number of new channels is up. Number of nodes observed is up. Network capacity is up.
No, network capacity is up, but number of channels and number of nodes are down. Like, right now, I'm looking at it.
I'm looking at it too. I sent you the link to what I'm looking at. I don't know why we're seeing different things and looking at the same thing. That doesn't make much sense to me. But Perhaps it has to do with statistics over 24 hours versus statistics over the monthly period. I don't know.
Well, I mean, either way, if you look at a long-term like trajectory, it's down. Like Lightning is down.
Where's the long-term? Where's the chart that shows the long-term trajectory?
It's withering away.
Where's the chart that shows this?
I don't have a chart that shows it. I just check this every once in a while, and I can tell you that like over the last year, everything's down like by a large margin.
Well, I don't. I want to see a chart. That's what I want to see. So if you don't have one, sorry about that.
No, I mean, you can say what you want, but like it's objective information. Like the Lightning Network is failing. Like,
it seems like you don't have this objective information. You just have, well, I check this every once in a while, and as I recall, it was higher before and it's down now.
It's not as I recall. It's like observable. Like
okay, here I found one that has a chart. Here's one that has a chart. Bitcoinvisuals.com/lightning.
Yeah, network capacity is taking a nosedive. Look at that.
I wonder if that's just because the
capacity per channel is taking a nosedive. Channels it popped up and now it's on the decline. Completeness measures, I don't know what that is. Look at the charts. Like
I'm looking at the charts. I'm asking like what's your starting point date?
Literal nosedive. I'm talking about from the beginning.
All right, so you're talking from the beginning where it had 0 and now it has what, 200 million?
Yeah, but look at the end of the chart. That blue line, that orange line, they're both going down.
I think that the chart is just showing the today. They haven't put in the data for today yet.
Well, I mean, like you can see on this chart that you provided, like both of those are nosediving on network capacity. Nodes is on a decline. Like that's not a rising curve. That's a declining curve, even though it's barely declining.
When you have
channels is declining pretty significantly by your own chart here.
Oh, hang on a second. Let's talk about this for a second. So when I make charts,
capacity per node. Look at capacity per node, nosediving, just like the network capacity. Channels per node, nosediving.
So when I make a chart, very often when the latest data is data that I don't have yet, and so it's always 0, and consequently at the very end of the chart it shows a 0 for the very latest data, and that's what it looks to me when you see a couple of these things going down all the way to or very near to 0 on the very last part of the chart, like. The last blip on it is a 0. I wonder if it's just that. I don't know how they're making their charts, but I know I've experienced that. I don't know how they're making their charts
either, but to me that looks like it's like in a significant decline.
Well, it doesn't to me. I suspect that if you look at these charts, on almost all of them, well, on every single one, it starts at a 0, it goes up to a high mark, and then on some of them, not even all of them, on some of them it dips after the high mark. But we're still way higher than we were, what, 4 years ago, 2 years ago? If you start counting from 2022, and all of these things were higher than we were then, only if you say like between 2024.
On channels per node and capacity per node, like both of those, the high point is like in 2019.
Yeah.
Right. And since then, it's just been on a steady decline. Like that's how you read that chart, regardless of the part at the end that looks like it's nosediving. The whole chart is like a decline.
For channels per node, yeah, it does look like that. And I wonder if that might have to do with splicing, because now we have splicing involved in Lightning, and it's much more efficient if you have one channel.
Channels up at the top, like channels in general, like not channels per node, just channels. Like that's declining as well. Not as dramatically, but it is declining. Like,
well, depending on when you start your count from, because if you go from 2021, we're higher than we were then. If you go specifically
from 2022, when it peaked.
Yeah, but we're down from the peak, but we're certainly not. It's not dwindling. It's like that. It's a big market that's been growing ever since it started, and it happened to hit a peak that it is not at yet again. But yeah, that's pretty normal for a chart.
Since the peak, it's not growing though.
Okay, yeah, well, that's always true. Nothing ever. If you only ever measure things from the peak, then you're only ever going to see decline. But this is a silly way to read charts.
No, but I'm saying like these are charts that you provided, and they clearly demonstrated a decline. Like
only from the peak. That's a silly way to read a chart.
I mean, not really, because the peak is when it was like the most prominent, right? And now it's declining.
Yeah, I think the peak is when we were in the bull market and Bitcoin was $75,000. That's not the current situation.
That wasn't in 2022.
And what does it show? Like a 40% drop from the peak. So that pretty much matches up with where Bitcoin's at. Yeah, these charts don't look bearish to me on Lightning.
They look extremely bearish.
Well, I guess we have different interpretations of the charts then.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like we have different interpretations on Lightning's usefulness as well, because like I think like Lightning is not solving any problem. Like it's just adding complexity and custodial stuff and KYC to Bitcoin, like really, and trusted third parties.
By the way, I want to take a moment to thank you for being a very respectful opponent in a debate. This
Sure.
has been my experience with Monero guys in general. You guys are great. When you guys are debating, you guys often. I mean, I debate some people, but not in the Monero community, who are like really bad debaters and they're yelling and screaming and stuff, and you can't do anything like that. You're giving me plenty of time to talk. You're letting me make my points. You're visiting the charts I provide. Thank you. You guys in Monero community in general are wonderful.
Well, likewise, man. Like I said, like I'm not like anti Bitcoin and stuff, right? Like I'm a Bitcoiner too. And like you have a lot of interesting things to say, and like regardless of if I agree or disagree with you, like you know, I can respect your opinion being different than mine. Like so that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because we're so drastically like different in our perspectives and opinions that I just thought it'd be an interesting conversation to have.
I've been enjoying it so far.
Yeah. So I guess like let's change the subject. We've bashed Lightning enough. Let's talk about your work with Nostr, man.
Okay. Yeah. What's my most recent Nostr project? Probably I've been doing a lot of stuff with Nostr Wallet Connect. Nostr Wallet Connect is a tool for connecting a wallet to a Nostr client, so that when you hit the Zap button, it just happens. It has an API key and can talk to your wallet and pull the Zaps from it with authorization. And also, like when people click to Zap you, it can automatically pull a Lightning invoice from your node or from whatever wallet you're using in order to do that. I've been playing with that a lot, and so I released a tool this month that uses Nostr Wallet Connect to connect to an eCash mint, so that you can basically turn an eCash mint into
What kind of eCash mint? Are you using Fedimint or Cashew?
Cashew.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't looked into the Fedimint API yet. Actually, I'm going to add it to my to-do list because I don't think it is on there, and I want to learn how to use the Fedi API. So thank you for reminding me. To-do
Sure thing.
list. Yeah, so I'm currently using Cashew. Cashew was written in Python, and that makes it really easy for me because I understand Python, and they've got excellent documentation for their stuff. Fedi was written in Rust, which is a language I don't know, and I haven't looked into whether their API is easy to use. It probably is, because there's plenty of wallets that do use, or plenty of projects that do use Fedi as a backend, so I assume it's going to be easy to use, but I haven't looked at it yet. So I'm going to add a to-do list, integrate Fedi into Bankify, which is my
what I like about eCash is that it's like super private, right? Like if there's a way to make eCash like decentralized and non-custodial, I think eCash would be better than Lightning, like for a layer 2 for Bitcoin.
If we can make it non-custodial, that'd be great. But I currently don't see a great way to. Well, actually, no. There are some proposals. I think Floppy Disk Guy has a proposal for how to make an eCash mint that's non-custodial. That I found it interesting. It involved the mint taking on the risk relative to the users, rather than right now the users take on the risk that the mint will rob them. And he found a way to reverse that, which is interesting. So I want to look at that and see if maybe implementing that would make you. Maybe you can make a eCash mint that actually is non-custodial, and then that'd be really cool.
Yeah, if you could do that, then I think that would be superior to Lightning, like night and day superior. Like, because as it stands, like,
it wouldn't be hard to make something superior to Lightning because it's kind of a low bar to clear.
Yeah, fair enough. But like, right now, like people are using Lightning custodially, right? Which is the major problem with it. And I think like eCash is the same way. Like, if you have to like rely on a custodian, that same virtual asset service provider regulatory burden is going to be imposed on you. Like, they're going to have to KYC their users. Now, maybe with eCash, since it's so private, you KYC and then they still don't know what you're doing with your funds because it's akin to cash or something, and it's private enough, even though you have to KYC. And it's like,
at some point, what I expect to happen is for mints to do a shotgun KYC. I expect at some point that you'll go to hit the send button on your Cashew wallet, and you'll get an error, and it'll say, in order to send this money, you have to go to this website and put in your documentation and assert that it's really you, and prove that you have this eCash token or something like that. and I expect them to do this, and then if you don't do it, you just don't get to send the money. It just stays in the in the cashew mint. But if you do KYC, well, then you're good. Then you can send the money as long as you're not a criminal. I expect that to happen.
Yeah, but if you do that, if you tie your identity to your eCash, like with eCash being as private as it is, do you think they'll still be able to trace your transactions and stuff?
Yeah, what I think would happen is that if there was any coin that they didn't know the owner of, then they would not let that person send the money until they identified themselves, and then they could trace it that way. You could say, okay, the money went from this person to that person, then we KYC'd them, then it went from that person to this person, then we KYC'd them, and so on.
So eCash really isn't solving any problems.
Well, I think it solves some problems, but I don't think it solves the shotgun KYC problem, which is if someone has your money, then they can just not give it back to you until you do KYC.
No, I get that. Like, there's shady exchanges that do that and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think there will be shady cashew mints and Fedi mints that do that as well in the future.
Yeah, I could see that happening for sure. So, like, all these Bitcoiners say, like, oh, we don't need base layer privacy. Like, we don't want to add confidential transactions. We want to keep the base layer transparent. We'll add the privacy on layer 2 or layer 3 or whatever. But, like, so far, all these layer 2s or layer 3s that they're building are going to be vulnerable to regulatory attack.
I think Lightning has the base required to withstand that kind of attack.
How though? Like, when the large nodes that are run by businesses are going to comply and they're going to be turning over data off every other node that's connected to them.
I just don't think they can. I think that they have very limited data, and if they turn it all over, I don't think there's much you can do with it. And all they can do to censor users is just not provide service to them, which isn't a big deal. Then you just
they may seize funds though. Like, if you have to send your fund through their node and they're supposed to forward the funds along, they could just seize your funds, right?
No, Lightning transactions are atomic. So if it doesn't make it to the destination, then it comes back. Then it goes back to the sender.
Okay, so there's no way, like, when you put the funds, like if I connect to Bitrefill, for instance, and I send, because they're one of the bigger nodes and they have lots of liquidity, I send $100 and I want to send it to you, but you're also connected to them, and I have to send it through their node to route it to you. Like, they can't just steal the money if they're told to by the SEC or the.
Correct. They can't steal the money. All they can do is say, we're not forwarding it to that person, but then it just doesn't leave your node.
Okay, well, I guess that's good, but I still don't see a way that Lightning is going to be able to be censorship resistant enough to resist the state imposing restrictions and stuff on it.
Well, I think it's similar to the way with regular nodes. If they are trying to send a packet, let's say broadcast a transaction, normally that happens because you send it to your peers and they send it to their peers and so on. If one of your nodes refused to do that, if they sent you an error message and said, I'm not going to forward this packet, this transaction you're trying to broadcast to my peers, your node would just drop them and pick a different one. And I think it's the same way with Lightning. If you have a node that is censoring you and not letting you make payments, your incentive, and your wallet can even be designed to automatically do this, is to just stop using them and pick someone else. And so unless they can stop all nodes from existing, then they can't do anything. They're just screwed. They have no power here.
Will covenants help fix this situation with Lightning?
Which situation?
The fact that you have to use it custodially if you're not a technical person.
Well, I reject the premise. I think a non-technical person can use Lightning non-custodially.
Then how come they don't? How come people don't do that?
I don't know that they don't. I see statistics that say people use custodial wallets for zaps, and I don't think that is a good indicator of what they're using for other things.
I would say it's a pretty good indicator, because that's a huge portion of Lightning's network traffic is people using it for zaps.
Where are you getting that information?
I mean, what else are they using it for? Because they're not using it for Bitrefill to buy gift cards and stuff like that. They're not using it on BitPay. From payment processing companies that are in the Bitcoin space, like when they make their data public, like Lightning's very, very low on the totem pole. Like people are using on-chain Bitcoin, they're using Litecoin, they're using USDT, they're using just other chains. Like Bitcoin seems to be scaling through other chains.
But I don't count that as Bitcoin scaling. People using other chains instead of Bitcoin, that's those chains scaling, not Bitcoin. I'm trying to find Bitrefill sometimes publishes statistics on Twitter.
Matt Alberg on Twitter, he's a guy at Bitrefill. He just published like payment data. If you look him up.
Yeah, how do you spell Alberg?
ALHBORG or something like that. I might have it wrong.
I think that's right. He's posting things about crypto anyway. So
yeah, he published like within the last like 2 weeks, like he published a report on like Bitrefill's payments.
Yeah, okay, found it. Bitrefill believes it's the largest commerce platform in crypto. As such, I wanted to share some deep thoughts on payment method popularity over time and the hope of pushing the industry forward. Bitrefill Payment Method Megathread 2024 edition. Okay, so if I look at this chart, then what does it show for the Lightning Network? Unfortunately, this chart doesn't have percentages. It just shows relative to other ones. Let me send you this chart, and then we can look at it together.
All right. Yeah, I was looking for it on this thing here. Okay, I got it here.
So the biggest share on here is Ethereum. The second biggest is Bitcoin base layer. Third biggest is USDT. And then fourth, it might be Binance Pay or it might be Lightning. I'm not sure. Both of those look like... So
they're similar. Yeah, they're about the same.
So third or fourth is the Lightning Network most used on Bitrefill. I don't think that's small.
I think it is kind of, though, considering that Lightning is supposed to be the payments like network for Bitcoin. It's incredible to me that people are using on-chain more than Lightning, considering that Lightning was like specifically designed for payments.
Yeah, well, I do think people use what they're recommended to use, and I recommend everybody use Lightning wallets. But it was surprising to me, like when I went to Hong Kong, I met people that had like never heard of the Lightning Network. There was one guy who I bought some Hong Kong dollars from. He didn't know what the Lightning Network was, and he didn't know that on Bitcoin you're not supposed to reuse addresses. Like I sent him money from an address, and he was like, "This address has never been used before. How did you get this?" And I was like, "That's just the address that my wallet made." And he was like, "That's impossible. Wallets always reuse the same address." It's like, what? Like that's not how we do it in Bitcoin. But maybe it is in Hong Kong. Maybe that's how they use Bitcoin. Like, I don't know. There's whole swaths of the network that use Bitcoin in a completely different way from how I do it and from how my little social bubble uses it. And maybe in those places, people don't even know that Lightning is a thing.
Do most people that you know that are in Bitcoin use Lightning?
Yeah, but I'm in a bubble of like I work all day with a bunch of technical people who half of whom work on Lightning itself. So yes, among me and my friend group, everyone uses Lightning, and I even have some people who refuse to use the base layer, like which is annoying because especially when fees are low, it's more reliable to use the base layer, and sometimes I want to do that, but then they're like, no, it's Lightning or it's nothing. Like I won't accept your money unless it's on Lightning, which is like
You're in a very specific little niche there because
I agree.
People I know either don't even know about Lightning or don't like it because it sucks and would rather just use a different.
I can't blame them for that part. It does suck.
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, like a lot of people I know will just use Litecoin rather than Lightning, or they'll use Tether, like on Tron, just because it's like as fast as Lightning.
Yeah, I think
centralized, like they'd rather just use.
I've also met people who want to use an exchange. Like they don't want to have any fees at all, even Lightning Network routing fees or whatever. And so they're just like, look, if you just have a Binance account, which I don't, and just send me the money on Binance, there's no fee, and then we're good. Like and they're like, why wouldn't you do that? That's just the obvious way to use cryptocurrency. But to me, it's the opposite. I'm like, if I wanted to just have a company have my money and then and then make an internal database adjustment, I wouldn't be using cryptocurrency. I would be using PayPal or something, or Venmo or one of these, or Cash App. But I want the experience of trying to do this stuff for myself, or to do it to do it peer-to-peer. I want to find the pain points that I can improve them. And so I'm willing to go through the pain of running a Lightning node and the hardship of that, so I can learn where the pain points are and then fix them.
I personally avoid using Lightning if I can. Like for my podcast here, like it's a podcasting 2.0 podcast, right? So I have Fountain to receive like streaming sats and all that. But like other than
You
that, like
draw.
that's the only time I would ever use Lightning. And it's not
Well,
even me using it; it's more me receiving Lightning, like from people that listen to the show.
I certainly can't blame you for not liking Lightning, but I do hope that I can make it more appealing to you in the future.
What other scaling proposals do you see for Bitcoin that have potential?
Arc, I think Arc is really promising, and they have an implementation out on testnet now. They just released a new version from arcprotocol.org, I think it is. I will send you the link if I remember it correctly. I don't think I did remember it correctly. Oh, there's a dash, arc-protocol.org. Here it is.
Isn't Arc like reliant on Lightning though?
No, you can use Arc without Lightning. I think most layer 2s of Bitcoin, or if layer 2s and quasi-layer 2s, I think are going to want to connect to the Lightning Network because it has enough of a network effect and enough users that if you didn't connect to it, you'd be worse off than if you don't. So I imagine that all of these things will want to connect to the Lightning Network, but at least with Arc, it certainly doesn't have to. You can use it without the Lightning Network.
How do you feel about the shared UTXOs thing here?
Big fan. I think that in the Lightning Network we have examples of shared UTXOs because channels are a single UTXO on the base layer. Like that money is in a single Bitcoin address, but it's a 2 of 2, so you're sharing it. Like you have a key and your channel counterparty has a key to that, and you have to agree on what to do with that money. I think that is cool. I think that is. I want to see more of that. And so Arc takes that and says, instead of just having 2 people have keys, let's have, a whole group. Like, well, I don't know how many you could probably have.
This is another thing I like fundamentally disagree with you about. Like, if I can't hold my own UTXO, then I don't want to deal with it at all. Like, I want custody over my money, right? Like, I don't want to have to share my UTXO with people. And like, if people are going to be priced out of being able to use individual UTXOs because of on-chain fees and be forced to share UTXOs, like to me, that's like a huge failure in Bitcoin.
Do you think that having one key in a 2 of 2 multi-sig means that you don't have custody of your money?
No, because like with like Lightning or whatever, like when you open a channel with somebody and it's in like the little time lock thing in a multi-sig on chain, like you have the opportunity to, like if somebody tries to scam you, right? Like you have the opportunity to like broadcast like your thing, and they'll be punished for it, right? For trying.
The analogy that I often use is that of a joint bank account. So there exist joint bank accounts. My parents used to have one where if you write a check on this banking account, you need one of the signatures of the 2 people. And if either my mom or my dad signed it, then the check was valid and the bank would cash it. There's also the model that some businesses use where you need both signatures. So like the 2 CEOs both have to sign the check, otherwise the bank won't cash it. And that's the one we use in Lightning, is where both have to sign it. But before you put any money into this account, you get your counterparty to sign a check that gives you the full amount back. And so that's why it's self-custodial. You got the signature on the check that gives you the money, and Bitcoin, as an honest banker, will always cash that check. Like Bitcoin doesn't let checks bounce. So that's why it's self-custodial in Lightning. And then when you want to send money to your counterparty, you write a new check and sign it that distributes the amount differently, and then you rip up the old one effectively.
But this model here that they're describing in Arc is that you would be sharing it with like tons of people.
Yeah.
Not just one other like counterparty. It would be like,
yes,
they like 100 people would share like a UTXO or whatever.
They want to have like 100. I suspect that they will have trouble scaling Arc beyond more than about 16 people per Arc. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Even if they just did it with 16, I think that would be a dramatic improvement because Lightning just scales to 2 users per UTXO, and Arc I think can do it to at least 16. So I'm really looking forward to their work on that and seeing where it goes. But yeah, I think it makes a dramatic scalability improvement and makes it so you can have it within the Arc. Transactions are free; like there are no fees for those. And if you want to go outside of the Arc, eventually I think they'll integrate Lightning support, so you can do that on Lightning, or they'll integrate base layer. I'm sure they have to integrate base layer, otherwise it wouldn't be a layer 2. But yeah, then there'll be options if you want to go out of the Arc as well. So I'm hopeful.
I'm
We'll
glad
see
you're
what happens.
optimistic about it, but like to me, like this whole like scaling path forward of sharing UTXOs is like not what I want to see happen in Bitcoin at all. Like I
Okay.
think it kind of like undermines the like trustless nature of Bitcoin, and it undermines like the like freedom aspect of Bitcoin, of like you owning your own money, like actually owning your own money. Like if I have to share my UTXO with like a bunch of other people in order to use Bitcoin, then like I don't even want to do that. I'll just use something else.
I think there's really promising examples of people enjoying this in other systems. So Ethereum has had payment pools for a really long time, and one of the ones that got popular for a hot minute was Tornado Cash. So people would join their pool, they would join their funds together into this big pool. They would and then when they made transactions, it was very unclear which of these people, because Tornado Cash had thousands of users, it was very unclear which of them was making that payment, because it could be anyone in the pool. And in Bitcoin, it is harder to build pools than it is in Ethereum, because everything's a lot more interactive in Bitcoin. But the ARC people figured out a way to do it, and they've got a testnet version of it. So I'm really excited about it. I
would say though, like in the case of Tornado Cash, like people were aware of the trade-offs, and they were doing so for an objective goal of privacy. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were trying to achieve privacy. So like they were willing to accept the trade-off of like pooling their money with other users in order to obscure like the heuristics behind who owned what. And like to me, like that's an acceptable trade-off. Like if you're trying to get privacy and you're aware of like what you're trading off to get that privacy, like that's a choice that the user has to make for themselves, right? Whereas like this scaling path of like not scaling self-custody and like people sharing UTXOs kind of undermines like the whole purpose of Bitcoin, in my opinion.
It's also very easy to overpromise. ARC only exists on testnet right now, and it's probably only had 5 people test it.
Isn't there one on Liquid, like an ARC on Liquid?
You're right. Yeah,
actually like working right now. That people.
There's an ARC on Liquid and an ARC on Bitcoin's testnet. So okay. But Liquid has even fewer users than testnet does. So, but we'll see. Yeah, it's very easy to promise. This will make it work. You won't have any liquidity issues anymore, and everything will be private, and everything will be fast, and everything will be cheap. And then when it comes out, I doubt it'll live up to all of its promise. But we'll see. I'm certainly excited about it, and the fundamentals seem sound to me. So we'll see.
Okay. Any other scaling solutions that are being put forth that maybe haven't hit mainnet yet that you're excited about?
Well, you mentioned the Mercury guys. I think they are probably. I don't consider them an L2 of Bitcoin, because it is possible under certain circumstances with difficulty for the what do they call them? The operator of the state chain to steal user funds. So I don't think they count as an L2. But I do think it's very promising. I think it offers even better privacy than eCash does, because I think there's more resistance to the KYC, to shotgun KYC. So I think that's really promising. And state chains also, if I used Mercury when it first came out to just test it, and I was amazed by, it was faster than Lightning, and you never had any payment failures, because they never have any hops you have to go through in order to find your destination. Yeah. So I was like, wow, this is faster than Lightning. It's more reliable. It's like as reliable as the base layer. This should take off, but so far it hasn't. Nobody seems very interested in using them. So I hope to see that change.
The fact that like you can't like change the denomination, like you have to, like it's like the way the thing works, like you can't change like the denomination. It's like fixed denominations, right? So like I think that's a huge limiting factor for like people trying to.
It might be, but that's also a factor in eCash. eCash also uses fixed denominations, but the way they abstract that is if you ever want to send an amount that you don't have a fixed denomination for, you add up enough coins to have more than that, and then you do a swap with someone who does have the amount you're looking for. And so there are like services that have popped up that will do these swaps with you. And this is all like abstracted away, so the user doesn't even see it happening. Their wallet, if they don't have the right amount, the wallet swaps to get the right amount, and then it sends it to the recipient, and it happens really fast. The user doesn't even notice. I think you could do the same things with state chains. So that whole industry there hasn't taken off yet, like it has with eCash. Maybe because eCash is easier to steal from, and therefore there's more people wanting to run eCash mints. But yeah, I don't know why it is that state chains haven't taken off, but I think they show a lot of promise as well.
I think for privacy, they show a lot of promise because they're better than coin joins. Like they don't leave an on-chain footprint.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's better.
Yeah, I don't know why like people haven't adopted those instead of CoinJoin, especially like with
It's
the
even easier to use than a coin join. Like a coin join, you have to leave the software running until the next pool, until you're selected for the next pool. But with state chain, you don't. You just hit send or swap or whatever, and you're done. It's easier to use, and it's a pleasant experience. It's great. State chain. People, look up state chains, bros. They're awesome.
So Lightning, like, do you see it as like being like for the end user, or do you see it as being more of this like connection layer for all these other like, layer twos?
You want my answer for right now, or my aspirations for the future?
Why not both?
Okay, my aspirations, right now, I don't think Lightning is for use by anyone except for super technical people. Um, so there's that. Even for them, I think they're going to prefer to use something else. My aspirations for the future are, yeah, I think it's possible to abstract away the difficulties of using the Lightning Network to make it so that the average pleb can do it. And so that's what I strive for and work for. Although I don't think I'm doing a very good job. I think my contributions have made it worse, not better. But we'll see.
A lot of people kind of have taken the opinion that Roger Ver put forth in his book Hijacking Bitcoin, that like Bitcoin was intentionally like hamstrung and crippled so that people would use these layer twos that are being put forth by businesses such as Blockstream that are in the Bitcoin ecosystem. What's your take on that? Like that these are like band-aids that were offered like to kind of like force everybody into like a banking layer.
I think Bitcoin's can't be hamstrung because everything about Bitcoin is voluntary. If anyone didn't like the software that enforced a small block size limit, they were free to use the software that had a large block size limit. And some did that, and so far it hasn't done very well. But I think you're perfectly free to do that. You can't hamstring free and open source software. You could just not use it if you don't like it. And
do you feel like Bitcoin's culture as open source software is a little bit weird because like it's not really like Linux or like one of these other open source software projects where anybody can like fork it, anyone can do whatever they want, and experimentation is encouraged. With like Bitcoin, like experimentation is discouraged. Like only certain proposals like get taken seriously if they're put forth by like a certain group of like Bitcoin developers and things like that. Like we've seen like Paul Stork for like, I don't know, like 8 years now trying to get drive chain into Bitcoin, and like because it wasn't like put forth by like Blockstream or like Blockstream affiliated people, it's just never been taken seriously.
There's a meme that I put out once about that took a quote from Hayek, who's like a Austrian economist thinker, and he said the only way we're ever going to get sound money again is if we find a way to slip it in through a back door that somehow they can't stop. And I kind of think the same thing about drive chains. The only way we're ever going to get drive chains is if we figure out a sly roundabout way that Bitcoiners don't know how to stop. Because I think most Bitcoiners don't like drive chains, but I do, and so I want to see them in Bitcoin. And part of the reason why I'm excited about BitVM is I think they allow us a way to get, well, not quite drive chains, but something pretty close to drive chains, and slip them in through a back door.
You work on BitVM too, right? Don't you?
Not lately, but I have worked. Well, actually, yeah, lately I have. This month I was working on a BitVM project. So yeah, I sometimes work on BitVM.
How far along is BitVM?
Well, that's a good question. I've made some applications with it. I made one of the things that I made was a tic-tac-toe game where you can create a BitVM contract and put some money in it, and then you have to play a tic-tac-toe game, and the winner of the tic-tac-toe game gets the money. So it's possible to make applications right now with BitVM, and I know because I've done it, and I've taught other people how to do it. I've taught about 50 people have taken my course where I help them make that happen. It's free on my website, by the way. If you go to supertestnet.org, you can make your own tic-tac-toe game in BitVM and learn how to do it. But, so that said, that's not what people want BitVM for. They want it to make sidechains. And how far away is that? Well, I'm not working on that. So
do they rely on covenants? Like, is this like reliant on a soft fork to happen?
No, you can emulate covenants in BitVM without a soft fork.
Okay. So you don't need them. It's not like Arc where like it'd be better to have covenants before you.
Well, it's like Arc in that technically you don't need them, but it's a lot easier to do. Like I think I mentioned with Arc, I think you could only fit about 16 people into an Arc. That's partly because it's a lot. You could fit a lot more if we had covenants, or if we had general purpose covenants. And I think it's going to be similar with BitVM it's different though. I don't know. I think BitVM you can have a larger number of people without the need for general purpose covenants, but they still make it a lot easier to build the software if we have them.
And like, I guess what would be the difference with like a sidechain that we have now, like Liquid or like RSK in its current like form with like the peg in, peg out thing, and then I guess like a BitVM sidechain?
Well, once again, this is possibly me over-promising, and you should take anything I say right now with a grain of salt. But it's going to be magical. It's going to be so much better than using Liquid. It's going to be so much better than using rootstock. The main advantage you get by using BitVM, and this is also what distinguishes it from a drive chain, is that with BitVM, okay, this is also complicated. The way that Robin's team is trying to develop a BitVM sidechain, Robin being the guy who invented BitVM and the founder of the way that they're trying to build a BitVM sidechain makes it so that instead of having a majority rule voting system like Liquid does, but when you're done using the sidechain, you have to ask them for your money back, and then the people who are running the sidechain have to effectively vote on whether to give you your money back, or rather running the peg. Instead of that, BitVM creates a situation where you always get your money back unless 100% of the people who are running the peg collude to prevent you from getting it back. As long as at least one of them does the bare minimum of even just shutting off their computer, then they cannot steal from you in BitVM. They can't just shut off their computer. They have to broadcast a transaction to get. They have to sign a transaction that gives you your money and then send it to you. So they can't just shut off their computer. So I think that's an improvement over current sidechains, because instead of requiring majority vote, they just require one honest party to be in the group. There's another way of doing BitVM sidechains that I came up with, and I have a name for it, but now I forget what I named it. So I came up with my own model where you don't need that. You can always get your money out, even if 100% of the people who are participating in the sidechain are trying to collude to steal from you. However, my model is more like Lightning in that it reintroduces some of the properties of Lightning, like inbound liquidity problems, and it doesn't have routing, so I guess that's better. But mine's also interactive. Like if you're not relying on someone else to be honest, you have to be on all the time and be ready to broadcast a transaction if someone tries to. But if the other people running the sidechain try to steal from you. So I came up with a model that allows that, but it introduces problems that Lightning has. So I think people will prefer Robin's version if he ever makes it. And I don't know how far along his team is with making theirs. They've certainly gotten a lot done. That I can see that, but yeah, I don't know. You should have him on your podcast and ask him about it.
Yeah, I might. I might ask you to put me in touch with him to see if he wants to do an interview.
Sure.
So, like, I guess BitVM is like reliant on like a federated model then, like the federation. Like you mentioned that there only has to be like one honest actor out of all of them or whatever. But
yeah, there's
a federation basically.
Robin's model does have a federation. His model, you can have a really big federation. So like I think with Blockstream, they have 16 people in their federation, and with BitVM, you can have, or at least promising the world here, and not sure it'll come out like this in reality. They think they have a way of making it so you can have hundreds of people in the federation, and only one of whom needs to be honest.
Do you feel like federations are trustworthy in practice? I feel like Bitcoiners like don't trust federations and have like shied away from everything that has a federation. Like that's why Liquid hasn't really been adopted in any meaningful way, and I think that's also going to be something that's like kind of detrimental.
I don't think it's true. I think because Bitcoiners have taken to Cashew, which is not federated at all. It's just straight up custodial, and I love that. Bitcoiners are at least somewhat using Fediment. More than they're using Liquid, and Fediment's also federated. It's just federated just like Liquid.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like I think like people just trust the federation. Like
I think it's but with the Liquid, I think it's a marketing problem. I think Liquid has a great product. Rootstock too. I think they have a great product that most people will be fine with. If they knew about it, they'd be fine with the trust model. But these guys just suck at marketing, and so no one knows that these products exist. That's what I don't know how else to explain it, because I think Bitcoiners have proven that they don't really care about custody. They just care about ease, and that sucks. But that's the current situation. And
See, I don't know if I'd go that far. I'd say like Bitcoiners do care about custody, but they're willing to like accept trade-offs for certain things. Like that's why like they'll use wallet as Satoshi.
Yeah, that sounds fair. You're right. They at least say they care about it, and they probably do at some level care about it.
I just think like the federation model, like because it's kind of in the middle. Like it's not custodial, but it's not really like non-custodial. Like it's like people just distrust it. Like they view it like kind of like skeptically.
Yeah, but people use what they're recommended to use, and I think that the people who do the recommending are people like me who really want to push them toward self-custodial things. But that's not true, because the people like me also recommend eCash stuff. So I don't know. It's too good. I don't have a good read on why Liquid and Rootstock don't have any users. I think they should. I think they're great, but whenever I go to recommend them, I have to tell people they can steal from you. Just remember that if you're going to use them, I think it's a great thing, and I hope they get lots of users. But you have to be aware they can steal your money, so you don't put much in. If you're going to use those things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Supertestnet, you've been very, very generous with your time. We're going on almost an hour and a half. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. Like, I'm super happy you came on the show. Is there any like closing words you want to let the audience know about anything you're working on or how to keep tabs on your work?
Yeah, my website's probably the best way to do that, supertestnet.org. I also have some workshops you can participate in if you want to do that. If you want to learn how to do some of the stuff I do. I've got it on that webpage. I also link my Twitter, my Nostr, my YouTube, my Telegram, so you can contact me on those things if you have any questions. But yeah, it's been great to talk to you, Paranoid Machinery, and I'm looking forward to future conversations as well. I'll also put you in touch with Robin.
Indeed. Thank you. I guess like the last question that I have for you before we hop off the podcast here is, how did you manage to find yourself in Mexico teaching Bitcoin courses in Spanish?
My friend Chris Guida has been down here for 10 years. Okay. And he invited me to come down and help him start a BitDevs because he has a big enough Bitcoin community now that he thinks it's ready for that. So I came down to help him. Also, Mexico's my favorite country. I love Mexico. And so I came to that as well. Too. I just think it's beautiful. The temperature's always great. I love Mexican culture. So
the food is good.
Yes, but it probably is, but that's not why I'm here. I really McDonald's every day. I don't even care about the food. But you're right. I mean, everyone else likes the Mexican food, so that's also good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, man. Thanks for answering that question, and have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll be in touch.
You're welcome. See you later. Bye-bye.